Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It pains me really that I've been watching some of the controversy that has been surrounding Shaykh Hamza Yousaf and his views about Black Lives Matter, the wider debate about racism within not just the United States but in all societies. And I just wanted to share my thoughts with you about the issues that we are facing as a community, as an ummah, and how we should interact with wider society. Firstly, I've watched what the Honourable Shaykh Hamza Yousaf has said, and I think he's slightly wrong in suggesting that the Black Lives movement is just about saving black lives. When we see so many young, talented black people being brutally murdered on the streets of the United States at the hands of police officers, then you've really got to ask your question that why is that happening? How can we stop it? And how can we create an environment where the police and the community have respect for each other, and that the police respect black lives, respect Asian lives, respect white lives, respect all lives? And I think if you talk to the victims who've been subjected to police shootings that survived, or you talk to the families, that there is a real sense of anger and frustration at what the Honourable Shaykh Hamza Yousaf has said. Now, do I believe that Shaykh Hamza Yousaf is a racist? I don't for a second believe that's any truth to that. He's a great intellectual, great Islamic scholar who has inspired many people all over the world. And he's come into Islam. He's chosen the faith which not only talks about equality but actually practices equality. If you look at the final sermon which the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam give on that very last Hajj, he talked about that there was no difference between an Arab and a non-Arab, a black man and a white man. Indeed, he was the person, despite the aggressive racism that existed in the time in which the Prophet, peace be upon him, came to this world, that he promoted a black slave, an African slave named Bilal, to a prominent role within the community. And it was him that was ordered to go onto the Kaaba, the house of God in Mecca, to give the call to prayer. So equality and anti-racism is at the heart of our community. Now, Shaykh Hamza, I think, is slightly wrong in suggesting that the Black Lives Matter movement is an element of racism. What it's really about, I think, in terms of what Shaykh Hamza was trying to say, I'm just trying to read the lines here, is that at a time when we see so much turmoil and division, particularly after Donald Trump got elected, surely we can come together as a faith community and come together as various parts of the United States and say there's no place for racism, there's no place for violence. And what needs to happen? What needs to happen is that the black community, the white community, wider society has to understand that black lives do matter. Racism that is disgusting and should be confronted. And I think Shaykh Hamza was maybe mistaken in the way he wanted to articulate that. As I said, do I think he's racist? Do I think he is part of the white establishment that wants to bring down black people, as some people may claim? No, I don't. I think he's an honourable, decent Islamic scholar. He's inspired many people, not just in the United States, but around the world. And so let's focus on those issues. And I think what it requires, if I may say so, is for Shaykh Hamza Yousaf to reach out to the black community. And this is the really important point I want to get across to people within the black community and the Black Lives Movement, who spent the last 48, 72 hours denigrating, attacking and belittling him and disrespecting him as a Muslim voice by referring to him to his previous name before he came into Islam. I think you don't do your cause any justice You don't do your cause any good by these antics. The best way to confront the disagreement that you and I equally share with Shaykh Hamza on this issue would to do it respectfully, to reach out to his office, to talk to him, to have a dialogue, to recognize that there is an opportunity to have a dialogue, to respect each other, and to come to some sort of understanding about where this is taking you. I don't for a second believe that the people who are denigrating him now have ever respected or liked Shaykh Hamza Yousaf. They come out the woodworks because they want to attack an eminent Sufi scholar. Yes, he happens to be wrong on this issue, but don't denigrate, don't attack his previous record of over 35 years. So he's somebody who brings people together. And yes, I'd say this to you as well. We can disagree with the views of particular scholars or individuals, people in the public eye, in the media, prominent Muslims, prominent Muslim organizations. We can do that, but we should be able to do it with respect, with tolerance, and above all, not to denigrate the intentions of those individuals. So yes, Shaykh Hamza Yousaf is wrong on what he says about Black Lives Matters. Actually, the best way to change Shaykh Hamza Yousaf's mindset would be for the Black Lives Matter to reach out to the Honourable Shaykh, to go and visit him, to have food with him, to share their experiences, introduce him to some of the victims' families. That would have been a more positive way to deal with this particular issue. And then there's a wider context, not just here in the UK, but United States and around the world. And that is about how we have a dialogue with people we disagree with, without resorting to some of the insults that we see from time to time. And this is not just about the Muslim community and the Muslim Ummah, but I think it's wider society here in the United Kingdom. We just come through the Brexit referendum where Britain voted to leave the European Union. Now there are some people on the Brexiteers who think that we should be ignored. Those of myself and others who are on the Remain side, the 48% who voted to stay in the European Union, should be ignored. And I think that's part of the problem, that they point the finger and call you a traitor and all sort of other nasty names that you see in social media. And I think that needs to stop as well. We've got to respect each other's right to hold different viewpoints. And yes, we'll have a honest and sometimes controversial debate, and we'll have different viewpoints, but we should be able to understand and respect each other's position and right to hold their viewpoints. And sadly, part of the debate on Brexit has been led to believe that we won, the 52% was there, we won, and you 48%, now shut your gobs. And I think that's wrong. In a democracy, in a parliamentary democracy, we've got to reach out, we've got to have a dialogue and a debate and a discussion, and yes, disagree from time to time without resorting to some of the insults, the petty insults that we see on our social media, particularly by certain individuals. And I suppose the final point I'd like to make is in regards to how we conduct ourselves in these debates. So I've never, in all the years that I've done the work that I've done in the public eye and grassroots organisation in the Ramadan Foundation, all my broadcasting roles have actually labelled people, traitors and munafiqs, and these sort of terms are the terms that cause offence to individuals. I've been subjected to some of those death threats. I've been called traitors because of my views about certain issues and certain individuals. I just think we've got to have a better dialogue without resorting to people being accused of all these sort of nasty names. And those names that we talk about, that we're subjected to, have consequences. So when the far right, for example, Tommy Robinson, if you were to go onto his Twitter feed, for example, you'd see he highlights sexual abuse that is carried out by Muslims, Asians, Pakistanis. Well, I say Asians, but I mean Pakistanis and Bengalis, with a predominantly total focus on just Muslim suspects. You can see it. Just go into his Twitter feed and you'll see that. And I have a problem with that, because somehow it says that the child who's been abused, sexually abused, has a different category, different level to deal, to their experiences. So if you're if the person who carried out that abuse against you was a Muslim, then this is going to be a crime that we're going to highlight and we're going to smash out everywhere on Twitter and Facebook and do as Tommy Robinson does. And if your crime is by a white person, like the football abuse scandal, the Jimmy Savile scandal, the politicians and the establishment cover-up that we've seen in regards to child sexual abuse over these past 3-4 decades, the consequences of that is that they belittle the experiences and the utter disgusting abuse that these children have faced. So we've got to have a debate about these issues, yes, but we're going to have some honesty. The right, the fascist right, are people who just want to highlight one particular community. And somebody who, like myself, who's been engaged in a national debate around the issues of child sexual exploitation for many years. I was the very first person from the Muslim community who spoke out against this at some risk to myself, because I knew that this was an issue that we've got to confront. And equally, there's a responsibility of people within the white community to recognise that the likes of Tommy Robinson, who are perpetuating this division and this hatred, should have no place in our debate. So if anybody thinks that these issues can't be addressed, then I think we've got to confront them. And in the end, as we say goodbye to 2016 and welcome to 2017, I hope that the year is filled with opportunity, tolerance, respect, and that we create a better society.